Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to the 8th webinar in our 2025-2026 FCM Collective series. For today's session, we recognize International Women's Day and Week with a conversation between remarkable women in leadership from across the globe. Our session is entitled Women in Leadership, Breaking Barriers and Building Support, and it is presented in partnership with the Canadian Labour Congress. My name is Evan Clark. I'm the Manager of Partnerships and Sponsorships with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. As FCM moves forward with our commitment to reconciliation, I want to acknowledge that FCM's head office is located on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, whose presence here reaches back to time immemorial. As an organization, FCM endeavors to unlearn colonial mindsets and practices, grow in knowledge, and adapt our ways of working. As we contribute to build meaningful relationships, we recognize the historic and ongoing contributions of Indigenous peoples and honor their leadership and partnership in shaping and strengthening communities across the country. I welcome you to acknowledge the land you are joining us from in the chat. Before I turn things over to the experts, I have a few housekeeping items to mention. L'interprétation simultanée est disponible pour notre session aujourd'hui. Pour accéder à l'audio en français, il faut simplement cliquer la petite icône du globe au bas de l'écran vers la droite et sélectionner le français. If you do not select a language, you will hear the live audio in English. Je vous donne quelques secondes pour faire le choix de langue. On our last webinar, a few participants reported an echo. If you're hearing an echo today, please double check that you do not have the webinar open in a web browser or a second Zoom tab. If you'd like to ask a question today, please use the Q&A pane in the Zoom platform. It's at the bottom of your screen. We plan to leave ample time for questions or even comments and contributions to our conversation today. That'll happen towards the end of the session, though. Please, we encourage you to engage with our panel of experts. Finally, please note that this session is being recorded and we will be available on demand on the FCM website. Now to introduce today's guests. Joining us from the Volta region in Ghana is Edith Allen Ablormedi, Assembly Member for the Akome electoral area. Through her work, she contributes to grassroots governance and champions community development initiatives that improve livelihoods for her constituents. Edith is the Volta Region Women's Caucus rep, and she serves on the Finance and Administration Subcommittee as chair. Edith is an alumni of the Sweden International Center for Local Democracy, where she participated in the Women's Political Leadership Program. From Zambia, we welcome Kanungwe Shota, council chairperson of the Kanshibaya district. In this capacity, Kanungwe works to advance inclusive governance, decentralization, and community-driven development. She holds a Bachelor of Arts from the University of Zambia, and she is also an Amuje leader and graduate from the International Center for Local Democracy and Women in Political Leadership program. Her work focuses on strengthening local governance systems, enhancing accountability and responsive service delivery, and expanding the participation of women and young people in public decision-making. Our third guest today is also FCM's second Vice President, Kathy Valentino, Councillor for the City of Thompson, Manitoba. Kathy also serves as President of the Association of Manitoba Municipalities. She's a strong believer in the power and importance of local governance. With over 10 years of experience on the City of Thompson's council, including 6 years as deputy mayor, Kathy advocates for focusing on the basics that truly serve communities. In addition to her political background, Kathy has worked in finance for the last 29 years. Last but not least, please give a warm welcome to our moderator for today's session, Siobhan Vipond, Executive Vice President with the Canadian Labour Congress. Siobhan was first elected to her role in 2021 and re-elected in 2023. As a committed trade unionist and intersectional feminist, Siobhan has spent her career championing the rights of workers and advocating for a fairer, more equitable world. With a deep belief in the power of collective action, she fights for the rights of workers across all sectors, focusing on issues such as pensions, gender and racial equality, and ensuring that workers' voices are heard at every level of government and industry. Her leadership extends beyond national borders. Siobhan chairs the CLC's Women's Advisory Committee and serves as vice chair for the International Trade Union Confederation Women's Committee, where she advocates for women's rights and labor justice on a global scale. Welcome all. Take it away, Siobhan.
Thank you so much, Evan, and thanks for the warm introduction. I am truly pleased to join you all today. I am joining you from New York, which is the territory of the Lenape people who have been displaced over the last 400 years. It is really my pleasure to get to help facilitate this really important discussion. The CLC, the Canadian Labour Congress, we've been proud partners of the FCM for nearly 2 decades. And we've supported women in local government through leadership, mentorship, and the provision of scholarships. Le CTC est la plus grande organisation syndicale du Canada. Nous sommes plus de 3 millions à être solidaires. Nous militons pour des protections plus fortes et de meilleures conditions de travail partout au pays en mettant de l'avant des enjeux comme les salaires, les avantages sociaux, l'accès pour soins de santé, les pensions et la sécurité à la retraite. Central to our work is a deep commitment to advancing gender equality in the workplace and in leadership. But this advocating for protections from gender-based violence and fighting for pharmacare, affordable childcare, pay equity, gun control, expanded parental leave, paid domestic violence leave, and the fair representation of women in decision-making roles. That's why the CLC marks International Women's Day this year by highlighting the dedication and efforts of women and gender diverse leaders in our labor movement to achieve gender justice in our unions, workplaces, and in our communities. We are also bringing these stories to the world stage this week at the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, hence why I'm in New York. And we are here with a delegation of 75 Canadian trade union women, and we're representing, to highlight our activism to advance gender justice and women's rights to connect it to this year's theme, which is the access to justice for women and girls worldwide. I also want to recognize and applaud the important work the FCM has been doing to advance women's leadership in Canada and around the world. There's growing research highlighting the systemic challenges women face in politics. A notable example of this is in 2023, a study by the University of Calgary conducted in partnership with the FCM, which revealed that women represent only 31% of municipal elected officials in Canada. And the research also found that women continue to navigate gender stereotypes that question their leadership, unsafe or toxic workplace environments, and harassment both online and offline. And for many women, the pressure of elective life is intensified by caregiving responsibilities and the expectations placed on women. And when we consider intersecting identities such as Black, Indigenous, racialized, 2SLGBTQIA+, and women with disabilities, these barriers become even more complex. These compounding factors contribute to higher rates of burnout and turnover among women and gender diverse people in municipal governments. And clearly, there's so much more to it. And we have so much more work to do. And really, that's why we're here today. So I'm really excited that this great panel group of panelists are here and that we're going to hear from the local context and how that influences their work as leaders for their community. So let's start with some opening remarks. We're going to first go to Edith Allen Albaretti, who is the assembly member from the Okume electoral area in Ghana. Edith, I'm going to pass it over to you for your remarks.
Thank you, and greetings to everyone. My name is Edith Alana Blometi, has been introduced, the assembly member for Akome in the Volta region of Ghana. Volta region has 18 MMDAs, That's the municipal, metro, and district assemblies. And out of these 18, we have five electoral, 5 districts without elected assembly female members. And just to tell you the work we have to do here. Am I supposed to do the whole presentation or just an introduction of what we have to do today?
I think if
Hello?
you do your 5 minutes and then we'll do questions later.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
out of this, thank you. Out of this, we faces some little challenges. And I realized that it's not just a challenge with Ghana, but it's a challenge all over the world. I was in Sweden some time back and I realized that, yes, what we face here is the same thing they face there, but in a different manner. Some of the challenges we face here within our municipality, one is our traditional perspective about leadership when it comes to female. In Ghana, we have these cultural norms that is believed that men should be the head and therefore they should lead everywhere. Women will succumb to men, women will submit to men, and therefore, irrespective of our education backgrounds, irrespective of our diversification, irrespective of our knowledge, we are still to succumb to them. Another one is the balancing of leadership and family responsibilities. As a family member, a wife, yours is to stay home and take care of the children, which of course it is no more that you and I agree that responsibilities as well as political responsibilities. Some again of the challenges we face, which actually we have a lot, but I'm mentioning a few, is also about the number of women who are ready to put themselves before the line to say, I'm going to contest, I want to be this, I want to be that. Due to violence, we feel intimidated to present ourselves to compete against the men. These are some of the challenges we face as women in our district assemblies. Now, let me quickly go to the next, which talks about some of the things we have to do to prevent these things. One of it is capacity building. I believe that the more we advocate for gender equality, the more we advocate for inclusivity, it will lead to women having more confidence to be able to confront these challenges we go through. Also, training and mentorship will help a lot. The more we look up to each other, the more we learn from others, we also build the confidence, we build the knowledge, and everything that it will take us to be able to contest against the men when it comes to political leadership and any other leadership for that matter. A few recommendations for our future. Yes, that is to create a safer and more equitable environment for women so that whenever we find ourselves, we fit in, irrespective of being a same person or a non-family member, you should be able to fit in the environment. We also want policies that will strengthen us as women. You know, there are norms that are rules, but we need policies that will strengthen us. You know, Ghana just passed its Affirmative Action Act that was last year, 2024. And it says what? At 26, we should be 30%. Actually, yes, it is a policy that has been passed. It is an act that has been passed, but we are unable to meet this act because it is not properly implemented. So we want laws to be properly implemented so that we will be able to fulfill it. The last but not the least, also to provide more training, more mentoring from professional development women so that we look up to them, and then to promote representation in decision-making places. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us and also bringing some ideas of how we can improve And that is wonderful. Next, let's go to Chenayumwe Chota, who is the council person from Kanchabia district in Zambia. Welcome, and we'd love to hear your presentation.
Thank you so much. I think I have 5 minutes as well. Thank you. Just trying to pack. I'm so sorry. I was coming from the field and I was rushing to make it in a place with network. I'm Kadungwe and I'm coming from Zambia. And I am a council chairperson or mayor of one of the districts in Zambia called Kanchavia district. Kanchavia is much rural. We have a very small cosmopolitan area and it is segmented in 10 wards. And I have laid the people of Kanchavia as the head of the local authority from the year 2021. And I think what I was mainly asked to present on are some of the initiatives that we have laid and what led to these initiatives. I think coming into office as mayor or council chairperson of Kanchavia, because Kanchavia is very rural, we have very low literacy levels. Very few people understand governance. Very few people even understand what the government is there for. And very few people understood what the local government was supposed to do in our area. And so coming into office as a woman, as a youth, I took it upon myself to make sure that local leadership, which is supposed to be local-centered, people-centered, is taken to the people. And one thing I promised them was they were going to understand the role of the council and why the council exists as a municipality in our area. So our area is about 8,800 square meters in size, which means it is very vast and the terrain is also massive and it's very difficult for people to have access to our offices. And because of that, people shunned our offices and they were not getting the best out of the local authority. And so what I did from the beginning was the best initiative that I feel I had, which is even now haunting me. I took the local authority to the people. So we had weekly agreements to say this week we are going to work in this ward and would conduct different meetings in different zones where people would come and would explain what services we are doing, what developmental programs government has, and would explain it in our local language, in our local dialect. And people would understand and they would ask questions. And from the beginning, I was able to see that now we had an interaction with the people. And of course, such initiatives had different people that came on board to fund us and to help us go on the ground. From there onwards, now we began to see, okay, what other programs can we come on board with that then we can help our people understand better or have better access to, say, funding. We had a funding that was sitting at the council that no one was taking advantage of. But then we realized our people did not have the tools and the means of accessing this fund because they lacked the paperwork. So we brought in a company that opens companies in Zambia that's called Pakra, and they came on board with different banks. Again, we moved with them because I mentioned Kanchavia is very rural, so certain parts of Kanchavia lack even just the basic services. The very banks that someone just looks at and walks by. For our people in Kanchavia, it's something that they look at as a need. So we brought in the banks, we brought in the ZRA, that's the revenue authority, to open their tax clearance. So it was a whole team of people that came on board, and our people were able to receive a service at their doorstep, and they opened and they have been able to have access to such a fund. We've also been empowering them through different initiatives. We have scholarships, we have bursaries that are going on at the council, and we make sure that every developmental program that we are doing as a local authority is taken to them. We have town hall meetings in their area. That way we are shortening their movement and we are taking a service to them. And what that has done, it has helped my office specifically because I have been the face of these initiatives. Not only have I been a face of these initiatives, I've also always learned to tell them the truth, what we can do and what we cannot do. And in a way, it has politically positioned me because the people have trust in the leadership that they elected, and that has really helped in the bridge. So every time we have initiatives and we have an opportunity to lobby for them, we were able to lobby for our women who benefited from some livestock that we lobbied from Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock. We have women that we have been able to empower, get grants that they are using for their small scale businesses. We have youths that have started different businesses that was because of the initiatives that was birthed through our office, and we just explained to them. And so in summary, that is some of the work that we have been able to do in Kanchiwi, and we continue to do. Everything that we receive, we make it sure that we put it down to say how best can it fit the community, and then we then take it down to the community. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, and thank you for sharing some of the barriers, but some of the solutions that you've been raising. Finally, let's hear from Kathy Valentino. Was introduced as the president of the Association of Manitoba Municipalities, a councillor for the city of Thompson, and the FCM second vice president. So I'll pass it over to you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, and good morning, everyone. And I'm struggling with a cold, so if I get one of these coughing attacks or whatever, I probably am not going to use up the whole 5 minutes, just to give you guys the heads up on that. But yes, I am located in the city of Thompson, which is Treaty 5, homeland of the Nechishawak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba. The population of about 13,000 people. Next stop would kind of be Churchill, Manitoba. It seems like everybody's a little bit more familiar with the town of Churchill wording these days. And I've been a city councillor here. This is my third term. And we are a young city. So, and I say that like 70 years young. So it's hard to change culture, and it's hard to get respect as women leadership when the town is young and it's been the way it is with male leadership. I'm very proud that my mayor is the first female mayor that our city has had. She's awesome, and I was a strong supporter of that. And we've been working very hard to ensure that we try to have representation for younger women around the table and to become leaders. And one of the things we've done recently as a council is we're having discussions on looking at our organizational procedural bylaw to have childcare costs. So if we have a young woman that maybe has just had a baby, that we can have childcare while she can attend the meeting, even if it's in the next room, if she happens to be breastfeeding, or making sure that our meeting times will accommodate a person with a young family. And also to the point of we're looking at, can we have a maternity leave in our organizational procedural bylaw so they can have like the 3 to 4 months off, whether it be completely off of council or just as a leave for the points of having a child. Those are very important, and we think that having those kind of conversations as a council will help to provide support to young women who want to become elected officials, because it feels like some of those issues are barriers, and we're having conversations to try and reduce barriers within our city and within Northern Manitoba to get the younger women involved. We're also looking and we work hard to look outside just women in municipal leadership, but we look at supporting women who are leaders in our community in other roles, whether they're a great Sunday school teacher or they're a great volunteer. We're looking to different areas where they have those leadership skills that we can try to work with them, support them, and then maybe they'll get the confidence and the understanding to take on an elected official role for municipal council. So those are kind of the things that we are working towards to get more women at the table. In my role as president of the Association of Manitoba Municipalities, I am the first female that has taken on this role. And it's interesting because I think when you're a strong leader, a strong female leader, and when I became elected as the first female president, I didn't think of it as being the first female president. I was elected as the president. But there's still, I find there's a stigma attached to that. And I really find that interesting because I just want to do the president role and be good at it. Not that I'm the first female president doing it. So that always interests me how people refer to that. One of the things in the role, I clearly do see, I know who hasn't voted for me. That's for sure. When I have to have some one-on-one meetings with particular strong-minded and strong-worded males who are elected officials, and I always take it as they take me maybe as a threat because of my leadership skill, and that's their weakness, and try to not let it kind of bother me too much, and it really doesn't. But something with the Association of Manitoba Municipalities that I continually work on is every spring conference, we have a women's event. And it's some kind of a women leadership event. And we have had some women in municipal leadership in our province that have really struggled with actual legal issues. So we will support them through our event, whether it's an hour and a half. We've had breakfast, we've had luncheons. I'm still trying to maybe get to a wine and cheese. I think we had one, but where we'll have some kind of a topic, some kind of a speaker, some kind of an interaction. So we're just not sitting there. And I can tell you a couple of really interesting topics. One is, we called it the power of the purse. And it's turning, you can Google it, it's turning into a big event, and it is used as fundraising events for women in many different roles. So I just wanted you to take that as a takeaway, that it's an opportunity to maybe have an event where you live. It's called Power of the Purse, and it actually comes from the United States, where the power of the purse is part of their U.S. Politics, but it also, we use it as fundraising events, that there's a lot of power in women who carry a purse. There's another one that's becoming very popular right now with our city of Brandon. It's called Her Seat at the Table. And they're having quite a movement about Her Seat at the Table Matters. And it's about women and women voice at the table, whether it be a leadership table for municipal politics or whatever role that might be where you live. But that's another good opportunity to gather women to an event where you may live. And the last thing I want to touch on that is very important to me is, at AMM, we recently developed a toolkit, and it's about anti-government and harassment, and it's on our website. And it is for all levels of leadership, whether it's a school trustee, municipal, federal, or provincial leaders. And there are 130 recommendations in it for those that may be struggling with hatred or social media attacks or bullying or harassment as an elected official. But if one of those recommendations can make a difference for somebody who's having some kind of harassment towards them, then it has done its job. I really encourage you to use that toolkit or have a look at it, pass it along. I truly believe that when we talk about women in leadership and the barriers that go with it, that it's something that we can't not stop talking about. So this toolkit for anti-government, for elected officials, women or not, is something that we need to support each other through. I'm going to wrap it up there to get a holes in me. So I look forward to the rest of our conversations.
Thank you. Yeah, everybody is juggling, whether it's other commitments and the job. And I think that is just, and then also illness that is indicative of just women doing it all. But we are so happy that you are here, and thank you everybody for your opening remarks. So as we move to the question and answer portion of our session, this is a great opportunity for anybody online. If you would like to pop a question into the chat, we will get to them, about from our panelists. If you want to hear more about whether it's their lived experience, what's working, what still needs to change. Anyway, throw your questions in there, and we will get to it. And as a starting, I would really like to kind of delve in and things that you have raised already. And so the question I have for you is, what barriers and challenges have you experienced or witnessed as a woman in municipal leadership? And I know you brought this up, right? But including like structural inequities and institutional challenges, gender-based harassment, anything that really comes to mind. So I don't know who wants to answer the question first. But I'll go to you, Kathy, and then we'll head to Edith. So thank you.
Sure, thanks. So my second term of council, we had a pretty, it was a horrible council. And my mayor and I both had a lot of social media online bullying from someone who used to be a counselor. He was a male, and it ended up starting to refer to our body parts and body parts in meetings, and it started to reference where I lived. So, and I'm a single mom with 3 kids, so they were starting to, it was bothering them. And that's, I think when it starts to bother your kids or your family, it kind of puts it to another level. So both the mayor and I, we actually opened up our CMP files just on that particular person, just to start to protect ourselves if unfortunately it ever did escalate. It didn't. He was spoken to about his online effects and the online bullying. But that was a real thing. And I can tell you, I never actually ever really thought that it would happen to me, but it did with the online bullying, and it really did bother me. And I didn't think it would, but it's a real thing. So yeah, that's something that I definitely experienced. It was horrible. But we have a really good council this last term. I just want to be clear on that.
That's great. I mean, that extra support's definitely needed. I don't know, do either you want to also answer this? Edith or Nina?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. So like just about
So
the barriers and yeah, perfect. Go ahead.
no, so there was this time, actually this is my first time when I live in an urban area and my electoral area happens to be a rural area. So moving from an urban area to a rural area to go and contest, they are like, oh, who is this female? A young one for that matter, and being the only female contesting against the male, the incumbent, and then the previous guy were all men. Actually, I was the only female. So they were like, where are you from? You don't live here. And what makes you think you can just come over and then come and rule over us? I was like, no, I'm not coming to rule over us. Part of you, unfortunately, I was born somewhere else. But I believe that with my presence and what I've gone to learn out from the urban areas, we can make an impact and a change in the rural area. Now, being the only female among men and being from a village with cultural norms, you can just imagine the men being the heads, they wouldn't allow you to have your head waved. Fortunately, I was able to convince some men to join me. So they became my allies and then told them what I could do as a woman and the things I could bring to them on board from the urban areas to their rural areas. And that actually paved way for me to be able to make it through the elections.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you. Yunungwe? I think we might be just getting a little bit of internet interruption. So let me move to the next question and hopefully that figures out excellent. Yeah, please, just a reminder to everybody online, we have all these people here, so please you can use the question and answer panel to drop it in. I know someone asked in the chat a question for the resource that Kathy was referring to. It's been put in the chat, so if anybody else was looking for it, please use that link to follow through. But I also really wanted to ask the question about what strategies, supports, or informal actions have helped you or others succeed. It would just be interesting because, I think you've touched on this, right? Like we all agree that we need to see more women in these spaces, but you've both also identified that it's women who are supported in these spaces to succeed. Yeah, what are the strategies and supports that have helped you and what you want to see? Edith or Kathy?
Sorry, I lost you. I don't know if I could be given that I'm really struggling with the network here. I thought I was in a better place with network.
Go ahead. We can actually hear you if you want to speak now. We understand it's very challenging with the internet, but go ahead. Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
No, thank you. You had asked about one of the barriers that I had overcome. I normally like to share one that is very, I know at work, the usual was she's young, she's fit. We are 25 years older than her, and we have 25 years older experience than her.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, that's the challenges. I guess another barrier, right? Access to internet. It happens everywhere. I know it happens in rural Canada, especially, but it also obviously is happening where you are today. So let's talk strategies and supports, and hopefully we can bring you, back into the conversation after. But strategies and supports, I think, are the things that we can learn from each other. So, Kathy or Edith, did you want to jump in on that?
Sure, I can. I think, for myself, and I know there was a question in there on how to, handle things from like male contingents kind of thing, but you have to surround yourself with good people who support you. And I think that, however you navigate through this and, whatever strategies you develop or any action items that come out of things, you have to be surrounded by good people, male or female. But to have a good team that supports you is everything, because when you do get those one-on-one meetings and it's uncomfortable because you're a woman and they are trying to make you uncomfortable, you need that good support team around you. It means everything to how you feel as a person and how you lead. So that would be my number one thing is don't do this on your own. Have a good team with you. And that means your leadership team, but it also means you better have a good group of friends in your family that support you also, because there are times when you need to really vent on things that you've come across in a day as barriers, or maybe tough conversations with people who don't appreciate that you're a female leader. So your whole world has to be supporting you, whether you're on or off the job. So I think that's really important. And I think as a council table, that you can develop those strategies however it works in your own community, because everybody's community is different. And you might have a real great strong group of young women, or an older seniors women group, whatever that group looks like. Tap into them and work with them and develop strategies on how you can make your network bigger. And I think that we don't have to formalize everything either. I think it's important in your community and at your leadership table that just informal events or informal conversations that develops strong leadership, and that starts to develop strong women feeling comfortable to take the next step into leadership. So I think, developing strategies, supports, informal actions, they're all there, but there's different ways to do it, and everybody's community has to tailor them to fit the dynamics of your own community. And I really saw that. I'm going to kind of ramble a little bit, but I was a part of the FCM Women in Local Leadership, and had the opportunity to go to Zambia. And one thing that I learned is that, and I guess I was naive to it, but this whole women in leadership, kind of the barriers and the issues, it's worldwide. And sometimes we just think like it's just in my own community. I got a municipal election coming up and I got to get women to run, and on and on. But it's actually happening everywhere. We need to support women across the world. And sometimes when we have like International Women's Day, I don't always like to focus on the negative and the barriers. We need to also always remember to focus on the success that women have had and the success that has gotten us to where we are today, and not just the negative to get to this. So that's always important to me. Talk about the success and how good of a job we've done as women, because we deserve that credit also. I think that answered a few questions. Sorry.
No, that's great. I think that's a really great reminder. Yeah. And, finding your allies and your people and your support. Yeah. Thank you for that. Edith, did you also want to share maybe on that one?
Thank you. So some of these strategies that worked for me was actually the practice of core democracy values. We talk of participation when you include everybody, literate, people living with disabilities, the marginalized, you bring them all on board, then they know you are for them. And being for them, they will also be for you, because actually they are the people to vote you to wherever you wish to be. Also, the value of being transparent. You go for council meetings, you go for policies and things, you need to come back and explain to them what the government or what the local governance people are trying to put in place, because they do not understand their language. Some of the policies they do not understand. So after going to the meeting, you come back and you give to them whatever you receive from the meeting. Yes. So that makes them know that you are being accountable also for whatever you intend doing. And then with the equity issue, that is where we have the problem. The gender balance is where we have the problem. So the more you speak with them about the rest, they realize that, come on, a woman can do it and she is doing it better. Why don't we bring more women on board? Yes. And also talking about the support from Canadian volunteers has been very, very impactful to us in Ghana here. Yes, our thanks go to you. With this training, we receive advocacies, we receive strategies, and we receive ways and means to go about our duties. Because there are times you are being elected and you do not know anything about local governance. But thanks to you, thanks to all the training you've been provided us, we have been equipped and we have also become mentors, mentoring others to increase our numbers in our next election in 2027. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. And just a reminder of how important the global connections are, but that, we are together in the challenges, but absolutely right, Kathy, but in the successes. So Kanyungwa, do you want to try jumping in? Please feel free, and then we'll see if we can make it work. But
I hope
we
so.
can hear from you.
Thank you so much. I don't even know where to start from, but I'll just try and answer a few questions that have already been thrown. I think coming into Kanchiria, I'll go straight to the biggest challenge I faced. When I got elected, very few women could speak at town hall meetings or even just community engagement meetings, because with us, it was almost a taboo for a woman to speak over a man. And so in the beginning, they were like, no, she does not, she can't even identify herself as a woman because she's one of us. She's our leader. So for her, look at her as a man. And then the men completely disassociated me with the women. And then so I realized if I wanted to be a girl's girl and if I was going to bring girls on board and women on board, they needed to hold my hand. But I also needed to hold their hands. So I introduced one thing that I'm very proud of. We passed a bylaw in Kanchiria that we call the BILO, that allows every grouping in Kanchiria to have fair representation. So for any type of meeting they're having, if it's 5 people are going to speak, they're going to split. It will be 1 male, 1 man, 1 child, 1 elderly, and 1 person living with disability. If it's 5, if it's 10, just like that. So that is something that I am proud that I am living, and I gave a voice to the women in Kanchiria. And so right now, people are calling me that I am a mayor of the women. And so then I said, that is unfortunate because I thought I represent all of you equally. How am I being attached to a female, only females? And then they said, because you love women too much. And I said, I'll be glad to have left as somebody who loved women, because there's been a notion that goes that women do not support each other. And I noticed that this notion, women do not support each other, is something that the men themselves perpetuate. And then the moment you support each other, they look at you as a threat and they see you as people that can take over because they know we are the majority. And so today I actually had an interview and I was telling people to say, if we came together as women and we supported one another, we have what it takes to take over. And there's a wave of women leaders that is being birthed. I saw a question in the in the questions in the messages. Someone was asking, what would you advise somebody who wants to take up leadership roles at local level? Go for it, sis. Go for it, my sister. There is so much help. FCM has been one of the people that have personally mentored me, just like the previous speaker. They have poured in my life. Today I had an interview and I was saying there is so much help. You don't need to be an expert to start. We all did not know what we are doing. The only thing I had was a vision to lead my people. I didn't even know what it took to be a leader. I didn't even know some of the things that I know now. So just take that step, be bold. As long as you have the heart for the people, there's enough help out there. I'm associated right now with a number of international global forums, not because I knew people going into the arena, but because people observed and they saw what it is that I was doing, and they saw that I'm capable of doing something. And whatever it is that you do, I always encourage people, let integrity be your north pole, and everything will align when it's supposed to align. And so I just thought I put my 2 cents on that, because it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I know what women can do, and I know if we support one another, we can achieve so much.
That is amazing. And just to echo all the comments, I'm not sure if you can see them as they're coming in, but people are really connecting with that. And I love that you don't just find yourself in your leadership position, but you're bringing people with you. And that is so very important and inspiring, I think, as a leader. And, another question that we have
and maybe just not to even cut you short, I should also give it back to FCM, because in Zambia, I sit as the only female vice president on the board. And I happen to be the last one who will sit there, because during my tenure, with the help of FCM, we have been able to change the constitution of the Local Government Association of Zambia. So now moving forward, a minimum of 3 females will sit on this board. So it's also something that I take very proud and pride. I take a lot of pride in that, because I was part of the people that were the facilitators and the torch bearers of this initiative. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, that's a great thing to highlight, and a great way to make connections, because this next person really wants to know, how do we find the good people to support you, and where do we find those people? And I think all of you have highlighted FCM being one place, but I'm wondering if you have anything else about where do you find the support that you need, and to make sure that you can do this work successfully. Kathy, did you want to jump in? Yeah, perfect.
Sure. And I just wanted to jump in on those passionate comments, because we had the opportunity to meet each other in Zambia, and I can tell you the female leadership in Zambia, they are very passionate and they are very strong. And one thing that surprised me was, not surprised me, I guess, but when they spoke around the table, I thought that there was a lot of respect for the women council members that were at the table, which I necessarily don't see that, maybe not what I say in Canada, but as much as there was the respect at the meetings there, which was something that surprised me. And I think that was one of the comments about, what did you learn, or what did you see from the international relationships? And I can tell you that this FCM program is super valuable to have these international relationships, because you learn from each other different avenues and different ways. Like, she was saying how they changed the actual voting structure for women and who speaks and stuff. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And the one of the barriers that they did touch on was also the financial component, that it was harder for women for the cost of elections. That was another thing I learned there, that the money was a harder thing for women to get together to be able to have a real powerful kind of campaign to run. So that was a few things that I learned from this whole Zambia program. Okay, anyways, back to what you're asking me. Ask me that one more time, sorry, about because I was too caught up into her passionate words.
No, that's good. This is a discussion. This is perfect. But just like kind of like the question was around, like, where do you find the people to support you? How do you do that? And I think it was a question growing out of what you had said, right? In terms of like, this is, you have to find your allies, you have to find the people who, like, where are these people? How do you connect with them?
I think those people are there. They're in your program, they're in your communities. And it takes work, but you have to reach out and talk to them. Like, we just had a huge event in our city, great volunteers. There's one lady, I am going to hit her up and I'm going to ask her. You have to make the ask. Would you consider running for municipal government? What can we do to make you interested in running for municipal government? What supports do you need there to be so that you would run? Like, you have to ask the questions. And it's interesting because there are people out there that don't want you to have like like little town halls about running for government or getting women to run because they feel threatened that you might be taking their seat away. And that's horrible. Like, let's get good people to step up and run and be involved and get elected as municipal officials. So I think that as leaders, you have to do some work. You know who those good people are in your community. Make the ask them, get them involved, have those one-on-one meetings. I think a lot of that is on us as leaders to get people to start having those conversations.
That's fantastic. And Edith, if you're okay, I'd love to throw a different question at you just so we can get through more of them because there's so many. But this one is really about advice to young women. Whether they're considering running for local office or working in municipal leadership. What do you say to young people and how do you get young women to see themselves in this work?
Oh, okay. Thank you. So, as I said earlier, Ghana has passed its Affirmative Action Act bill, Action Act, which was passed in 2024. It calls for women's 30% representation on all leadership aspects. But we do not have the numbers. So what we intend doing in visiting our universities, our local communities, there are people who have leadership qualities, but even do not realize it. So with an advocacy on this Affirmative Action Act, they are aware that, come on, there are positions for us to fill. Therefore, we need to go out there to fill those positions. When you encourage them and you give them the confidence they need, and then you make them know that you were once like them, you talk them to believe you were once like them, you took a bold step to this stage, they can also do it. They need a little encouragement, a little motivation, a little confidence and push, yes, and then they come up to this contest and they make it. Yes, so this is actually what I intend. I even intend visiting our municipalities that do not have elected female assemblies, speak with them. Those who are interested, then we pick them up to mentor them to become like us. Honestly, they only need the confidence, the push, the education, and motivation, and they are good to go. So my message out to everyone is do not be intimidated. Do not panic. So far as I have been able to do it, you can also do it. They should let us collectively shift the norms and we can all share the power as women. Thank you.
Excellent. Oh, that's inspiring. Yeah, share the power, right? Can you, I don't know if you want to jump in on maybe what we can talk to young people as, but also someone was asking a very specific question to you about what's the name of the program you were referring to in terms of like that covers it so that various people have to speak and the representation. Because I think you said now if there's 5 people, one has to be a woman, one has to be someone living with disabilities, etc. So I'm wondering if you can share that, but also how do we inspire more young women to see themselves in this?
Thank you so much for that question. Hearing Edith, I was actually smiling because I'm currently working on a magazine. It's not a book, it's a magazine. It just has like pictures of leaders in Zambia with a very small biography because I noticed the young generation do not like to read, but we still need to capture their minds when they are still teenagers. They want to read something for 2 minutes, they are bored. So then I thought of coming up with a magazine with powerful women in Zambia, a picture of them when they were very little and a picture of them now. And it is called I Once Was Like You. So when she said that, I smiled because I was like, oh, okay, great minds do think alike. And so for me, it's about having role models. And I have had so many role models that I saw and I read about their lives, their struggles, how they came from humble beginnings. I come from a very humble beginning myself. And every time, even when I'm in Kanchiria and I'm moving in school, I relate with the children because I once sat on the floor to learn. I once walked to school. There was one time when I didn't have shoes to walk to school. But now they look at me and they're like, if she did it, so can they. And I'm not one person who shans to say, I do not know this. So they know that even weakness is also part of leadership, and learning is a continuous journey because no one knows everything. And so for me, I always say, as long as someone has in them care for other people and they have empathy for other people, that is all it takes to lead, because then you know you'll want to leave a place better than you found it. So for me, I'm a believer that there's so much help out there, because I have been a beneficiary of so many people that have held my hand. I think right now I'm speaking of over 100 people that have held my hand in this journey. And so for me, I feel right now we are living in a time where the world is acknowledging and it's slowly giving time and believing in female leadership. So what is the better time to start than now? So for me, what it just takes is for one to just be courageous and take that step, sis, because all you need is just the confidence. And believe me, you don't even need confidence to think you know everything, because it's not every time that we all know everything. Everyone who's here right now, they don't know everything. But we are here not even as experts, but as people who have lived through tribulations, and we have overcome, and we can speak to you and we can tell you there's enough room for everyone. And so we just need enough women. And I think they asked about the bylaw. That was the second question. In a nutshell, this is a bylaw. So it is an initiative that was based in Kanchivia. So it is not even at national level, it's still at district level. So it is an initiative that was birthed because of the limited space that was given to women, and it was not fair because they are the majority. And I personally, through my office, said this is wrong, and I'm not going to allow them to speak because I'm here. I want to leave something that is going to happen even if I am out of office. And so we needed to change the system and implement it and put it as part of what our local authority does every time a meeting is held, with or without my presence. So it can also be done at any local authority level. It is very easy. We have the tool that we use to achieve it. I'm free to share it anytime if it's asked. It's just something that we came up with, and of course we had experts come on board to see how we can put it. But we basically just implement every meeting. We make sure that every grouping is represented. For budgeting to be approved, we get a vote from every grouping.
I mean, that is amazing. And thank you, because I think it just reminds us that it's important to leave it better than we found it, but also to change the rules so that those next to us can build on the successes because of that you've made. So that is absolutely inspiring, all of this. Now, unfortunately, there's so many questions, which is just showing how much of an important conversation this is. But I'd like to give each of you 30 seconds of, for everybody listening and for all of us, what would you like us to take away in terms of this topic, in terms of what can we do, who do we call on as we're moving forward? And so can you, May, let me start with you, just kind of final thoughts of how we move forward and what we should be fighting for in our own places.
Thank you so much. I think what we should be fighting for is being each other's keepers, being a girl's girl. Because we're still in a time where men are still brainwashing us that women do not support each other and they are putting us against one another. May we that are in this meeting not be victims of being the reason why another girl is crying. May we not find ourselves wanting. Even when our sister is wrong, even if they're coming from different political parties as politicians, let's find ways of ironing our issues as girls without seeming as if we are teaming up to fight one another. For me, I feel that has been one of the biggest challenges why we're not even given spaces, because we are treated as if we're very trivial. We must be very objective when we're dealing with issues. We must attach a certain level of importance to ourselves and dignity, and people are going to accord us the respect that we deserve. There's a saying in my tribe that says, a chief respects himself and he gives himself the throne, like something like that. So if you want people to respect you, you need to bring that respect to yourself. And so for me, I always tell young girls that it is very important that we carry ourselves with the dignity that we want society to give us. And eventually society will pour back in us. So I think I'd like to leave it there.
Thank you. Edith, any final thoughts?
Yes, thank you. So my final thought is what men can do, women can do, and even do it better. We know when you educate a man, you educate one person, but when you educate a woman, you educate the whole nation. That is from Crazy Agri. So therefore, we thank FCM for your wonderful work. We will be doing our part from our local direction, and we will urge you not to leave us, but to keep holding our hands. And we know that the international networking will aid us to go a very long way. With the interculture, then we all know that problems that we are facing as women are not only with Africa, but with the whole world. And together, we will have sisterhood network and we'll fight this cause. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Edith. Kathy?
Thank you. I think it's important we keep the conversations going and open. We need to provide women in local leadership the space to have them, just like today we did. I think that FCM does a very good job with the International Leadership Program. It would be great to have a women in leadership event at our FCM conventions because we need to provide the space to support each other and to share ideas because that's how we can grow. And that's how we can get more women at the table to be local leaders and to be a part of municipal government, in whatever country that we live in. Thank you very much for today.
Thank you very much for your great words. Over to you, Evan.
Thank you. I've never felt like I've been interrupting more than I have in this moment. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Edith, Kanungwe, Kathy, and Siobhan. Really inspiring stuff. If we could just ask our panelists just to hang out for just 1 minute, we are going to try to take a quick photograph after the session. As mentioned, a recording of our conversation today will be posted to fcm.ca and sent to all registrants by email. If you've enjoyed our conversation today, our next FCM Collective webinar will take place on March 25th, where we will be discussing the real costs that come with doing nothing in an era of recurring climate disaster. Be well, everyone.